You're watching Play Replay with Async. Today I want to talk about my thoughts on the recent release of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So, my thoughts, without spoilers in the beginning here, are it's a good movie. There's a few things that could be better, I guess, but it's not a bad movie, and it's probably the best Marvel movie that I've seen in a long, long time. I mean, these Marvel movies have been just not very good. They've been filmed on a giant screen in the background all the time, and it's just not very good special effects. And this movie has some not so great special effects as well, but it wasn't bad overall. The story, I think, is much more emotional and more, I think there's more care put into this movie than 99% of the other Marvel movies that are coming out. In this movie, there wasn't a bunch of people heart-wrenching moments like when someone dies and then there's a joke immediately afterward or something like that. There's none of that in this movie. There's just a lot of heart and a lot of feeling and a lot of emotion stuff and stuff that pulls at your heartstrings. I'm not going to say in this non-spoiler section if anyone dies or anything like that. I'll leave that up to you because you're watching this as a non-spoiler. You can come back later to watch the spoiler portion of this video as well. But I'll just say it this way. There's it's basically like the end of this set of Guardians as you know them. And there's going to be like a changing of the cast in kind of a different way. It basically puts a end to the Guardians as we know it. And I'm not saying that is and they all die or something. I'm just saying that it sets them into their own direction so that they can go and do different things in other movies perhaps. And this is obviously the end for James Gunn directing these because he's over at Warner Brothers now. So yeah, this is a very good ending though. For me, I would put this Guardians 1 is my favorite Guardians, but I would say this would be my second favorite Guardians of the Galaxy movie. The second one was good. It had a little more story elements and stuff. I could see why they did the second one the way they did. But this one tells the story of Rocket and Star-Lord. So you get a good mix of stuff that they're dealing with. I'm not going to go into details because this is non-spoilers. But you probably will like this if you like the other Guardians movies. It doesn't go woke or any of that stuff. I don't see anything in this movie that really has an agenda beating you over the head. I mean, really the only thing I've seen in this movie is the Guardians are fighting against tyrants in a sense, you know. The villain in this movie is a very good villain because he actually is a villain. There's no sympathy, you know, type of stuff where you're like, oh, I feel so bad for this guy. No, you want this guy dead. So you're definitely going to enjoy, if you like a villain that's actually a villain in movies, then this is a good one because you won't like this villain. He's a very bad guy. So, I would say that go see this. I don't advise people to go see Marvel because it's connected to Disney, because I don't like to give money to Disney. But for this movie, because it's the end of the Guardians, I wanted to see it through. And this is like the first Marvel movie I have seen for a long time with giving them money. I'll say it that way, because I don't usually give Disney money anymore. But I don't like to watch their stuff because every time I have, it's been woke and there's a lot of agenda. There's just so much stuff that they put in these movies that is not needed. I mean, besides the fact that everything's a female nowadays, like leading everything, and the men are just kind of just dumb idiots just walking around like, oh, I don't know. But this movie doesn't have a lot of that. This has fair weight put on all the cast, the females and the males, and they complement each other, unlike other Marvel movies. So that's a plus to me, because they males and females in movies should complement each other. They shouldn't be like one's better than the other. It should be just an equal, like, hey, that makes sense for the character. Whatever makes sense for the character is really a good thing. And nowadays it's like this fake type of thing where the woman has to always overwhelm and always do better than the male. So I don't know what that's all about. It's obviously a thing that they're trying to push. It's an agenda, but this movie really doesn't do any of that. This movie sticks to what you want in the Guardians. So I don't really want to talk too much more about the non-spoiler stuff. I want to get into the spoilers now. So if you haven't seen the movie and you want to see it without spoilers, then you should probably end the video now and come back later. So I'll just count to 3 and then it's going to go into spoilers, okay? So 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to talk spoilers. Okay. So this is kind of a Peter Quill and Rocket Raccoon movie, pretty much at the heart of it. Peter Quill, Star-Lord, is dealing with, obviously, the fact that Gamora is not the same Gamora that died in Endgame, and this Gamora is a totally different version of her. But this one basically takes that Gamora on a mission with the Guardians so that she can kind of fall in love. It seems like it's aimed toward, like, to show her, hey, this is what makes the Guardians so great. And then she kind of, she's kind of a selfish, kind of a jerk in this movie. And then you kind of see the transference a little bit by the end. And I like that they didn't actually get them back together and all that, because I think that would feel rushed if they did that in this movie. But I like how she's not just kind of a bitch to Star-Lord and all that stuff. By the end of it, she's kind of understanding where he's coming from. And also, there's a story with Rocket. In the beginning of this, Rocket gets hurt by Adam Warlock, which this version of Adam Warlock, a lot of comic book fans will probably hate, because this is like young Adam Warlock when he's just like, he's an adult, but he was basically taken out of his cocoon early, so he's not really as intelligent and knowledgeable about his powers and about being an adult, basically, as he would be like 20 years from now, So this is like the first time you get to see Adam Warlock, and he's kind of a child. And I think the guy that Will Poulter, I think he played him the way that they told him to play him. I mean, he did a good job with what he had. And I don't think they did a bad job on purpose. You have to remember, this movie was written, I think it was written before Infinity War even. So they basically had this set up so that it would be, I think if this would have come out, if James Gunn wouldn't have got fired and then rehired and all that stuff, I think this movie would have come out maybe before Infinity War or Endgame. And then I think that maybe they would have used Adam Warlock in those movies, and he would have basically been more adult. I don't know. I think they changed this story to make him more of a child because of he's not going anywhere. He's not going to the Infinity War or anything. So I don't know what they're going to do with him after this. I don't hate the character, though. He's not a complete... he's not badly acted. He's not a bad character. He just needs to grow up. And it seems... I feel like we have to have an Adam Warlock movie or a series of movies to watch him grow now, but I don't think they could do that now because I think they want to go woke and, all that stuff. So it's kind of seems like they're just going to waste this character. And it's sad because I think Adam Warlock would make for an awesome character. And there are some cool moments with his powers and all that stuff in this movie, but he does get knocked down and all that stuff because he's not as powerful yet as he could be once he becomes the full-grown, full-strength Adam Warlock. So there's that. And the Rocket Raccoon part of the movie is really the the heart of the movie for the most part, because you get Rocket Raccoon right in the beginning, and you see flashbacks throughout this whole movie of Rocket Raccoon. But Rocket Raccoon, like I said before, gets taken out by Adam Warlock right in the beginning, because he's just doing what he's told. And the Sovereign, or whatever, the woman that's after the Guardians from the second movie, that golden chick or whatever, well, she released Adam Warlock to go get the Guardians, basically. And then you find out in this movie that they're after Rocket, really, and that she works for the High Evolutionary. So you get a good villain here with the High Evolutionary, because he's the one who obviously made Rocket, and he's just this evil guy who basically just does all these science experiments on animals and crosses them and makes them into hybrid people and all this stuff. He's just really evil, and this movie makes you just hate this guy, and it's very well done. I just love how they did this. So it's nice to have a villain that you actually hate. So Adam Warlock and the Sovereign, or whatever, those guys are they're trying to find Rocket Raccoon, and that's what they want to bring him back to the High Evolutionary, because of course the High Evolutionary wants Rocket for his brain, basically, and all that stuff. So it's complex, I guess, to explain what they need, everything. You got to watch the movie. I think it's a great movie. I don't know how good it's going to do, but I think it's well done. I think it's even better than the second movie. So I would say to watch this one, even though I hate the idea of giving Disney any money, but this one is a good movie. And this is a good finish to the trilogy of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But the Rocket stuff, you get to see his friends and stuff. His little Lila kind of girlfriend thing, that they were stuck in cages together. I think she's like a ferret or something. Anyway, and there's a lot of emotional, heart-tugging things, like you get to see a bunch of raccoons, and yes, Rocket Raccoon finds out he was a raccoon from Earth, and he basically wants to save all of these things. And there is some sad moments when you see these creatures that the High Evolutionary's been messing with. They die or whatever, and it's really sad. And I just think that they just did a good job. They made you care about characters, and that's how long has it been since I actually cared about a Marvel character, because it seems like, oh, they die and then they come right back. It's just, they don't do a good job with making you feel like these characters are going to die. All through this movie, I felt like, I'm just like, watching this movie, I'm like, who's going to die in this movie? And several times I thought Drax was going to die, or he died. I was like, wow, I think they're doing this on purpose. So, yeah, and everybody gets their moment in this movie. That's another thing I like about it. Mantis, she gets to do things that Mantis, with her powers and stuff, she actually becomes a character instead of a person just standing around. She's actually used in this movie very well. And of course, she's Peter Quill's sister, so from Ego or whatever, Ego the Living Planet, so he's got that whole thing going. And everybody gets a good story in this movie. I just love how they actually filled out the story so well. They basically made everybody have a good finish to all of their stories. They took the time. And there's even stuff that happens in the beginning of the movie that kind of echo what's going to happen later in the movie. And I thought that was so smart in the writing. I'm not used to Marvel having smart writing anymore. I just was like, wow, they actually took the time. They actually cared about this movie to write a good script. So I'm just like, wow. I realized this movie was supposed to come out a long time ago. So maybe James Gunn had the time to really basically cross his T's and dot his I's and get everything just perfect. But I'm so glad that he took the time to make this movie as good as he did, because I really enjoy this movie. I went to see it all by myself because, my wife, she didn't want to go, and a friend of mine, he was busy or whatever. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go alone. I don't like to go to movies alone. I usually don't, but I went alone. And of course, when I get there, I'm thinking, is there going to be a bunch of seats, or am I going to have to wait to see this because it's sold out? No, it wasn't sold out, but the theater I went to was kind of not really in the city, so it was kind of out there a ways. But it's a good theater, and it really had like, I think, what was it, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 people in the seating. I think maybe 10, maybe 20, just maybe 20. But the seats were not taken up. I could choose whatever seat I wanted to. If I wanted to go sit wherever, I could. So I don't know if that's not a very good sign. Now, I don't know what theaters in the inner city and the big cities are like. I don't know. I can't speak to that. But I usually go, wow, if there's really nobody in this movie, I don't know how well it's going to do. I thought a Guardians movie would do well, but it seems like Disney has pissed off a lot of their loyal fans with a lot of this woke stuff and this MCU stuff, and there's just a lot of things that they've done to really turn fans against them, or even just families that just like a good movie. They pissed off a lot of people. So it's like, I understand why a lot of people are not going to see this if that's the case, but I kind of wonder what the inner city, like city stuff, what the big theaters are getting for views. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, and when the numbers come out for how many people seen this movie. But that all aside, it is a good movie. Whether people see it or not, it's still a good movie. And I got to be honest, it's a good movie as far as I'm concerned. I don't have a problem with this movie in any way. I really enjoyed it, and there's a lot of heart, and there's a lot of I feel like it's basically a mishmash family, and I just love how they all come together. And there's even them fighting, and you get to see, through the fights, and you see the good sides and all. It has a good ending. It has everything feels good. And I just like it when you end a story with a good feeling and that everything's going to be okay, but you're not making fun of everything and making jokes like a Taika Waititi Thor movie or something like that. It's not a joke all the time. It's like, in fact, this movie wasn't as funny as a lot of the other ones. Not because there's bad jokes. It's because there's just a lot of serious stuff happening in it. And Peter Quill, the acting is great in some of these sequences. I mean, it's just amazing. Star-Lord is great in this movie. He's a real, actual hero in this movie, like a hero. Like, he comes through and he cleans up his act to try to fix things and be the man, And everybody else does too. I mean, every character. Mantis, like I said, she's great. She tames these giant creatures and stuff. It's just so cool. And Drax, he plays Drax. I mean, he's kind of just the comedy thing, but there's a little bit of emotional stuff in there too. And he has like kind of a good ending too, with him taking care of these kids because he misses his kid, And that's kind of cool. And Rocket Raccoon, like I said, his story has a beginning, middle, and end, and he does survive, which is great. And I mean, if you're watching this, as a spoilers, so I mean, you should know that already if you've seen it. But you get to see him become the leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy. That is so cool. He's a fitting leader. I always loved Rocket. And then you get to see Groot. Now Groot, the special effects on Groot, I didn't really care for. I thought he just kind of looked like a guy in the suit sometimes even. The special effects weren't the greatest. But he did do some cool things. He could grow giant in this one. He does fly, or I shouldn't say fly. He glides at one point, holding Peter Quill and stuff. But he's just Groot in this movie. And then Nebula, she was great in this movie. She plays the cold, like whatever. She just, there's comedy in that too. But she's just great all the way around. She's a really good character in this movie, just like she is in all the other ones, and she's still trying to find her way, but at least she feels like more of a leader in this one, like she's trying to do things, and they got like obviously Gamora, she just plays a badass, she's kind of heartless in this one until the end. You kind of feel her, like how she feels near the end, but even Cosmo, the space dog or whatever. I like that one. She's a great. I just think it's cool that she can move things with her mind and stuff. She's great. Everyone's great in this movie. Adam Warlock, he's probably the least out of all the characters, and that's because they wrote him that way on purpose. But he's probably the least of the most interesting characters in this one. And even the High Evolutionary, he's great. He's just a badass. He's just a great villain. And I just love having a villain that I can hate and not have to question, well, is he good or bad, you know? So anyway, I don't want to go on and gush about it. I just think it's a great movie. I would give it probably 8 out of 10. Now, I think that's probably, some people will probably say that's too high, but I just love it. I love it more than the second Guardians, not as much as the first, obviously, because the first is what made them. But yeah, this movie is a great movie. Go see it if you're into it. I would definitely say go see this movie. So if you like it, leave comments in the comment section below and tell me what you thought of the movie. Maybe you might think I'm wrong about it. I don't know. But just don't beat me over the head, and tell me I'm wrong and I'm not supposed to have an opinion, even though you do. So leave a comment in the comment section below and like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.